One Piece chapter 1084. Now, the chapter isn't too different from the previous chapter in terms of pacing and reveals. I will say that I like the previous chapter a bit more because we got more context to things that happened, especially in regards to the situation with the admirals and the revolutionary commanders. But in this chapter, this seems to be more of a setup. Now, I know the term setup has been used over and over again, but that's exactly what this chapter is, because it looks like there's going to be a bombshell reveal after this, and a reveal that I think a lot of people have been waiting for a very long time, ever since the reverie was happening back in chapter 903. But again, we're getting closer and closer. It's a slow build up, but it's happening. Before we keep going, guys, though, I'd appreciate it if you drop the like on this video. That definitely helps me push out more content. Subscribe if you're new here, and hit the bell if you want to get notified for more. Now, we start off the chapter with Juri, Bonnie, and Sabo, in which they encounter each other in the halls of the Pangaea Castle. And of course, given that these two are correlated to Kuma, it makes sense that they would be on good terms with each other. And incidentally, they also came to achieve the same purpose here, so it makes sense that they would work together here. Sometimes I always forget that Bonnie was in this arc. A lot of the other plot threads involved here seems to overshadow what Bonnie has going on, so sometimes I don't really factor Bonnie in a lot of these things. Now here she does mention that she was going to leave everything to the Revolutionary Army and the commanders to deal with getting Kuma back. She changed her goal to see if she can get to Vegapunk in order to restore Kuma's mind. Now initially I was of the mindset that we were going to get more reveals in Bonnie's relation to the war government in some way, shape, or form, and she was probably going to play some role in getting Kuma back, but it seems like she just happens to meet the Revolutionary Army and then she sails out of there once she noticed that Sabo and those other guys were dealing with that situation, which makes a lot of sense, right? But I thought she would have more of a role here. But obviously Oda had that in mind and had her in the Egghead arc for a purpose. So we're obviously going to get more Bonnie things there, relating to both her and Kuma. Now, something very interesting was also brought up when these two were roaming the castle, and one of the guards mentioned that there's been few guards around the castle lately, and they don't have enough men to cover the entire place. And one of the other guards mentioned that they've all disappeared because they saw it, the legendary Phantom Room. Now, this is more than likely referencing to that frozen area that we saw Imu-sama, where we saw the giant straw hat. And it seems like anybody that comes in contact or gets to see that door gets erased. And this is like a rumor that's spreading throughout all the guards. And of course, some guards don't believe it, but there's evidence of guards actually going missing. And of course, Sabo listens to this and he's intrigued by it. So I wonder if Sabo is actually going to make it to the Phantom Room. And again, apart from just seeing Imu, he might have gotten a glimpse of something else as well. And I'd like to think that the end result of all of this isn't just Sabo getting to see Imu, right? But other mysteries that lurk within Maridra. Because there's absolutely so much that Oda could tackle here, as they are seemingly the endgame villain of this story. Now, we do also get to see the interaction that Cobra has with the Gorosei, and a lot of interesting things were revealed here. Now, obviously, the first thing that he mentioned was things that we've always questioned as well, right? And this was in reference to the Nefertari family, who were once celestial dragons themselves, as well as context as to why they left that position in the first place. Now, we do get a name drop of the monarch at that point in time 800 years ago, and she goes by Queen Lily of the House of Nefertari. And one of the mysteries that Cobra was talking about was that she was never mentioned after the Void Century, almost as if all records of her were eliminated and destroyed. Of course, knowing the world government and their shady ways of doing things, it makes a lot of sense for her to have been eliminated, right? Because she had something against them or she didn't go with the quota. And interestingly enough, Queen Lily has a very similar name to Vivi. And even when you look at the silhouette, she has a somewhat of a striking resemblance to Vivi. So I wonder if there's some sort of incarnation thing going on here. Now, we know that Vivi is special in some way, shape, or form because Imu did have a picture of her. So I feel like there could be a lot more there. But basically, Cobra was saying that Queen Lily never actually made it back to Arabasta. Because of her absence, her younger brother actually took the throne. Now, in obvious world government fashion, the Gorosei essentially tell him that 800 years has been a very long time, so we don't really know what exactly happened at that point in time, and that information relating to her has more than likely been lost in history. And again, interestingly enough, we do see that Imu is actually listening into this conversation. So he or she is obviously interested in what's going on. Now, Cobra does also mention the Will of D here, and apparently it does seem like he has some information that was passed down from Queen Lily, but obviously he doesn't have the whole story because he's coming here asking questions about that. Now, as all of this is happening, IMU actually reveals themselves at the end of the chapter and takes a seat on the empty throne and essentially mention Lily's name. Now, the more I look at IMU-sama, the more they look inhumane. Like, this doesn't actually feel like an actual human person, but it does look like we are obviously going to get some reveals here, and funny enough, that would be revealed by IMU-sama themselves. I'm starting to think that we might actually get a face reveal for IMU-sama in this arc. I feel like that's where all of this is building towards, and we will eventually find out if this person is an actual human or some sort of deity or god. But I think consensus for the most part is that IMU is actually a female or a girl because of the figure of their shape, right? And also their outfit is also that of a dress, so it is definitely falling in line with her being a girl. But again, only time will tell. What's also interesting is that the incarnation thing might actually be a possibility here, because the fact that IMU is interested in Vivi but not Cobra is kind of telling. Because if it was just the bloodline that they were worried about, then they would just have focused on Cobra, right? But the fact that they had a picture of Vivi specifically means that Vivi is special in some way, shape, or form, and maybe because Vivi has a striking resemblance to Lily, taking into account that their names are also very similar. So I'm starting to think that Vivi might actually be some sort of ancient weapon or something, but again, we'll see where this is all heading towards. Now, apart from that, the other things in this chapter were pretty much self-explanatory. One thing I will say is that I am so glad that Charlos gets absolutely stumped in this chapter. For some reason, he keeps coming back because of his obsession with having a mermaid as a slave, and this started ever since Subodhi. For some reason, Oda is highlighting this dude as literally the worst celestial dragon ever. I mean, most of them are bad, but Charlos is just, he's really annoying. So it was very satisfying to see that he got bonked in this chapter. And while that was all taking place, this is where Kuma gets rescued. But again, we know that Kuma for some reason came back to the Holy Land again for something that we're not aware of. And I feel like everything is going to come together into some big reveal at the end. And I do have a feeling that one of the Holy Knights might be revealed when Kuma makes it to Maridra, and one of them might be responsible for killing Kuma. So I'm actually excited to see what comes next, because Oda has started to deliver on the things that he's been wanting to do forever now. But again, for the most part, this chapter was definitely set up. But that is pretty much it for this video, guys. I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Comment down below what you guys think. Subscribe if you're new here, and hit the bell if you get notified for more content on this channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Ferrospace, and if you are interested in supporting the channel, you can become a part of the squad by joining the members. But it is Ferro, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.